Hello and welcome to the Goldenrod Podcast. I'm Ben. As always, I'm joined by fellow Pokemon enthusiast Conor to bring you some of the latest and greatest Pokemon news and a few laughs along the way. This week, we're discussing Pokeverse, the ultimate unofficial fan-run Pokemon event letdown. We're also answering a question about dragon types. As always, you can jump to a topic using the timestamps in the description below. Conor, we are one episode away from episode 100.
Finally. I can't believe it's actually, A, I can't believe it's here. B, I can't believe we've been doing this so long.
I know. It's, funnily enough, earlier on, because I've got, I back up a load of my computer stuff using OneDrive. And OneDrive has this really cool feature on your PC, on your mobile, where if you've got the app, it'll go, relive your memories from today. So I went on it and I scrolled down, and it was the Goldenrod podcast logo. So obviously at some point that was when I uploaded it or I'd shared it or something. I'm not quite sure. It's been that long. I just made me realize, oh wow, this has been going on for quite some time.
A hot minute.
Yes. And are you amazed that we're still doing this?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm amazed because I thought we'd publish this and then it would just die because no one would want to listen to it. But we've got like a nice little community that, you know, you see the same people commenting on the YouTube videos and coming back and asking more questions, and like the people that are genuinely interested in our thoughts and opinions.
I get a surprising amount of people actually come to me in person saying, oh, I've been listening, I really agreed with this, I didn't agree with that, or yes, I listened to you on the way home kind of thing. It's I get more people will come up to me and let me know when we haven't uploaded an episode.
That's good to know that people that people are aware when we don't, on those rare occasions where we don't publish an episode. It's good to know that people are like clamoring for the content.
Yeah, I should say there are consistent listeners.
Yes, yeah, and I love it. And these people are the reason why, you know, we're still doing this, right?
I mean, I could have given up ages ago. I mean, I enjoyed talking to you, obviously, but
yes.
it's a fair amount of work that we put into this each week. It's a good like 6 hours out of my day, really, to record and edit these. So I could have not done that, but people seem to enjoy it, and for those people, we keep going.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you everyone for helping us to reach 99 episodes, and then next week we'll bring you episode 100. Let's jump into the first topic this week. I have a little fly that keeps buzzing around my computer. Anyway, let's continue. So Tony, regular listener Tony, has commented on the last episode saying, what's the deal with dragon typings? I feel like ever since the Pokemon community won with having both Charizard and Sceptile obtain the dragon typing via Mega Evolution, that everything that looks like a reptile must be a dragon type. So my question, what are some Pokemon that look like they should be dragon typing, but are better that they don't have dragon typing?
Okay.
So
it's a very interesting question, and you've brought up Sceptile and Charizard to begin with. Charizard's an interesting one because arguably Charizard X, which is the dragon type one, looks cooler. But I think Charizard Y is the better Pokemon, which is the one that says fire flying.
Yeah.
Because it gets, to be fair, that's because it gets, it gets harsh sunlight. What is it? Sets the sun up. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
It sets the sun up and it has a higher special attack, which Charizard is anyway. If they'd maybe given those abilities and made Charizard X the special attacker, we'd be having a different conversation. But that's not how they went with it, because Charizard's main dragon type move is Dragon Claw. So they went, well, we'll make it physical. And I don't think the dragon typing did much for Charizard, really.
I think it was more a case of you've been saying that Charizard should have been a dragon typing. Here you go. Here is a Charizard that is dragon typing. Shut up about it. That's kind of what it felt like to me. And it felt like they what were the reasons they gave Charizard and Mewtwo two typings, two Mega Evolutions each? I think ultimately it came down to the community and them wanting to be able to go, here's two really popular Pokemon. Let's give them both two Mega Evolutions to cement that. But also that element of, well, we know if we just make Mega Charizard just fire flying, it doesn't address some of the frustrations, criticisms that people have. So therefore, let's make everyone happy and go. If you think Charizard should still be fire flying, there's a Charizard for you. If you think the Charizard should have been the Dragon typing, there's a Charizard for you as well. It just felt like they were trying to please everyone with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think realistically, if they had made Charizard a Dragon type that early on, it would have been horrendously overpowered for many, many generations to come. It wouldn't have made sense to pick any other starter Pokemon. Even if you made it so it didn't become Dragon type until its third evolution, the same as the fire flying. So you still... It would have been a nice balance. Sort of the start of the game's harder because you have a rougher time with Brock, you have a rougher time with Misty, but then you have an easier end of the game. There's an argument to be said there. Also, I suppose in Gen 1, it wouldn't have really had any attacking moves. It would have only had Dragon Rage, so that wouldn't have mattered too much. By Gen 2, though, it would have been ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. We have to remember this is early gens without fairy typing. So Fire Dragon only would have been weak to Ground Rock Dragon, of which there weren't many Dragon type moves anyway. Rock, for the most part, early gens wasn't 100% accurate anyway. So it would run through most teams. I'd imagine it would have been one of those, everyone talks about early generation competitive battling. It was Alakazam, it was Mewtwo, it was the special attackers, it was the psychic attackers. Charizard would have probably been up there if it had have been Dragon Fire, because it wouldn't really have had anything to shut it down.
Have we had a Dragon Starter yet? Don't think we have.
Have we? Gen 1? No. Gen 2? No. Gen 3? No, unless you count Mega. Gen 4? No. Gen 5? No. Gen 6? No. Gen 7? No. I don't know why I'm continuing down this when we could have just looked it up. No, we haven't had any Starter Dragon types, have we?
One of the reasons for that, I think, is because Dragon types, granted more on the pseudo-legendary side, but Dragon types kind of, on a whole, have a lower XP gain. Because it's supposed to be a case of you struggle really hard early on to level them up, and then it pays off big at the end. Whereas starters are the other way around. They level up faster than every other Pokemon you have. They've got a faster XP curve. So to have a Dragon type and have it easy wouldn't have been good. And to have a starter Pokemon that was really hard to level up and took forever also wouldn't have been good. The typings, especially early on, if we're talking about Gen 1 and Gen 3 with Charizard and Sceptile, just really wouldn't have worked, I don't think. So, yes, it's really cool that they got them as Megas. I think that allows a payoff to the fans, as it were. Most people will have either already played through with them, or it's you have to give up your Mega evolution for it. Have you got any? I want to go through the generations and go through, because this is a weird question. These are Pokemon that are better by not being dragons.
Yeah.
Which early generation is rough, because most Pokemon would have benefited from being dragon type.
Yes, agreed. I'm just trying to pick out ones that I think fit that kind of aesthetic of what makes a dragon. And I, doing a bit of research on this before we started recording, I went down the line of, well, they've got to have wings. But it's only when I started getting down the list, it was actually Game Freak don't typically, there are obviously dragon types with wings. There was a lot of dragon types that don't have wings. It was when I saw Gudra, I was like, oh yeah, it's a dragon type, but it doesn't have wings. So then I've had to like retroactively go back and go, okay, what are some Pokemon that I could see having dragon type, either because of power or aesthetic, that don't have it. And actually,
I think the aesthetic mostly now, as hinted at in the question, is mostly big lizard.
yeah, which like the first ones I come across are Nidoqueen and Nidoking.
Interesting. I've heard other people mention that these could be dragons. I don't see it personally.
Yeah.
I get it. They're big. Okay. They're powerful.
Yeah. I think it's because like if it's that okay, it's because when I think of dragons, what do I think of? I think typically of very powerful, scaly, and wings. Nidoking and Nidoqueen fit 2 of the 3 of them, and the wings, as we know with Game Freak, aren't needed for dragon types, which is why I went down that like line of reasoning for those 2.
Okay, so we've got slightly different thinking on the line of what is a dragon, because for me, I think of dragon as I've always understood dragon. The reason we have dragons all across the world and in so many different shapes and varieties, dragon is more of a feeling of a creature.
Yeah.
Right. So it's basically like going, what is that? And translating, we're all going to die into a single word. It's dragon. That's what dragon is.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you have the Chinese dragons, the Western dragons. There are like sea dragons. There are dragons with front legs, dragons with back legs, dragons with wings, dragons without wings, all different types. Yes, they are mostly reptilian, but then you've got like the Quetzalcoatl stuff, which is more bird-like. Yes, it's slightly reptilian, but mostly bird-like. And then you got to ask, is that actually a dragon or is it own thing? My point is, to me, it has to embody that, we're all going to die mentality. Or at least have somebody who sees it for the first time and thinks that. I can see that with Nidoking and Nidoqueen. I'll give you that, actually. Now that I've explained that out loud.
Okay. Have you got someone earlier than them in the Pokedex by any chance?
Same generation, different Pokemon.
Okay.
Lapras.
Oh, yes. Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah. If somebody turned around to me and said Lapras was a water dragon, I'd have said, yep, of course it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. A bit similar to Gyarados then. Because Gyarados is one of those Pokemon that people say it should have been water dragon. And again, you know, it goes back to what Lance says, I'm pretty sure in one of the games.
Not all dragon types are dragons. Or sorry, not all dragons are dragon type.
And then when I heard that, I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it. Like, I understand. Dragon Pokemon just have to, like, say, embody that feeling.
Mm-hmm. So,
but not necessarily
dragon
have the
typing is weird. I mean, typings across all Pokemon is weird. We know that they all embody this level of infinite energy, and regardless of what their typing is, they can use moves from other types and things like that. It's a very wishy-washy what it is. I think dragon is one of the oldest typings. I think there's an argument for that. Yeah, I don't know if... So Lapras being water ice is pretty good, I think. I mean, anything that has the ice typing is going to suffer. But
yeah,
actually, that being said, Lapras does suffer by being water ice because it's a bulky Pokemon. And Water Dragon would serve it a lot better than Water Ice does in the bulk factor. As we later saw with Kingdra, who was just annoying to try and take out. Nothing was really super effective against it. Water Dragon is such a powerful type combo. Gyarados is a hard one. I don't think it benefits from its flying typing. Like, at all, really.
No, I agree. It just hinders it, I think, from my experience of playthroughs. Yes, it's nice to have that. It's nice to be able to remove the grass weakness, but quad electric weakness is never good for a water type, but also something of that power just being able to be shut down by a single thunderbolt.
Here's the thing, though. Although, because Gyarados almost ticks every box for dragon typing, even in the early generation, it's hard to level up from a Magikarp. It's got the lore behind it of the carp that climbs a waterfall and becomes a dragon. It looks like a dragon. It's got that serpentine look. It's got even the dragon mustache, which we see on a lot of Chinese dragons and things like that. However, I think if it was a dragon type and evolved below level 40, it would have been a mistake.
Agreed. And I remember like having a Magikarp, and in that early game, the first time I played it, and I didn't know how it evolved. And I'm just like bringing it along with me. It had been in and out of the box a few times because I thought this thing is just never going to level up. It's a nightmare because you have to switch train it. It eventually learns tackle, and you think, okay, we're making progress. And just the excitement of seeing it evolve, and when it's like jumping between the two sprites, it's like, holy, this is going to be something. And seeing it for the first time, being so happy with it. But again, like to your point, if it had have been Water Dragon evolving at level 20, they would have had to hinder it in some way. Because you couldn't have a level 20 Water Dragon type in Generation 1.
Which effectively has no weakness until... Well, it has no weakness outside of Dragon Rage, so it has no weakness.
No weakness. Yes. Like, I can understand why they didn't go with a Water Dragon type. I think it's pretty telling why the one dragon type that in Generation 1, in the final evolution of Dragonite, why they gave it the flying typing as well, because it was to give it an actual weakness of ice type.
Yes, it gets that quad weakness to ice.
They had to figure out a way to... I think they knew when they were developing Generation 1 just how busted dragon type could be, hence why we only got 3 dragon types in the entire game.
And then the same evolution line.
Yes.
The other one you hear a lot about from Gen 1 is Aerodactyl.
Yes, that's on my list.
Which I understand, because you look at Noivern, who is a dragon type, and you look at Aerodactyl, who isn't, and there's not a whole lot of difference here. They're both wyverns, really.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely an argument for Aerodactyl. I think because you get it from the Old Amber, which is like you have to find it on Cinnabar Island, as far as I remember. And then you have to trek all the way back to Pewter City. So, no bad thing. I can't see a reason why we didn't go Rock Dragon on that one. I think it would have been pretty good.
Oh, that would have been nice for Lance's team as well. Because, again, thinking back to Generation 1, like, we've been, I think, spoilt in the later generations where, for the most part, when you get to the Elite Four and the Champion, you've seen the majority of the Pokemon because either, they've been in previous generations or they've been marketed or whatever. They just seem to be there a lot. Whereas Lance, I remember the first time fighting Lance and just like the Dragonite comes out and you're like, what is this? Like, I've never seen, I don't know what to do. And all I know that is I can see it's got wings on it. I'm hitting it with a Thunderbolt for my Pikachu. It's not super effective. Like, what is this? So to imagine Lance throwing out, again, another Pokemon that most players won't have seen in Aerodactyl, a rock dragon type, and just suddenly going, okay, how do I shut this thing down? Because your head would ultimately go to, well, it's flying, and Lance is a dragon type tamer, so it's dragon. And then to find out, actually, you know what, it isn't flying, it's dragon rock. And having to overcome that would be absolutely fantastic. But again, that raises issues of certain Pokemon that need 3 typings but don't get them.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, you're then introducing a dragon type that arguably is better than Dragonite. Granted, it doesn't have the stats, but it's a fast Pokemon that has a super effective typing against its weakest typing on the dragon side. You gain a ground weakness, which is unfortunate and is always weird when you have a Pokemon with wings have weakness to ground.
Yeah.
So I can see why they maybe didn't want to go with that. What else? The water is not an issue. Grass isn't an issue. Yeah, it's a strong typing.
Yeah, it really is. Which, again, I think would have been nice for Lance, just for that. Lance is the second last trainer battle in the game. Make him difficult. And that's one of the ways that you do it. If you get to the end of the game and suddenly you think you know all the typings, you think you know how to play this game, all of a sudden to be thrown against a dragon type trainer, and suddenly you are almost scratching your head back to the drawing boards. And I'm thinking back to when I was a little boy playing Generation 1 for the first time, and the internet wasn't really a thing. Like, you'd have to either try to get the official guide, you'd have to just listen to your friends talking about it, or you'd have to just keep going in and just experimenting, which I'd loved doing as a kid.
I actually just did a quick look up to see if there was a rock dragon type, and there is one, and it's Tyrantrum.
Is it Tyrantrum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of maybe the Pokemon that made us realize that dragons don't all have to be dragons. Like, the dragon typings don't necessarily all have to be dragons, because it's a dinosaur.
Yeah. It's a dinosaur.
A lot of my list is just dinosaurs because of Tyrantrum.
Yeah.
Because it's such a common design feature within Pokemon to base them off dinosaurs. But to turn around and then go like, oh, well, Meganium's a dinosaur, so it's Grass Dragon now.
I see what you mean. Yeah. I think this is one of the to go back to your initial point about like that feeling of what a dragon is, and I think that is I think that's how Game Freak approaches it, because like say there are dinosaur type Pokemon that are dragons. There are dinosaur type Pokemon that aren't dragons. There are, like we said, Aerodactyl, Gyarados. There are Pokemon that give that kind of feeling of they should be a dragon and yet aren't.
Yes, they kind of go with that, except from Dratini,
sometimes
Mega Ampharos, Altaria.
True.
Let's have a look. Let's go down this line. Axew, I can kind of get Axew. That's fine.
Yeah. So is there any
Galgy's
rhyme
a weird
or
one.
reason? Yeah.
Drampa,
is there any rhyme or reason?
Flapple, the entire Flapple line.
Which is strange.
Which I get because it's a worm. As in WYRM. It's a pun.
Yes. Yeah. That evolution line, I think the dragon typing makes sense now that we've got a final evolution introduced in the DLC.
Yeah. But it's only a final evolution for one of its evolution lines.
One of them. Yes. Which is
Tatsugiri is the other
strange.
one. Tatsugiri is the other one that looks a little bit like, excuse me, what?
Yeah. But again, I think that's more of the surprise factor.
Look at this I think it's a Japanese pun.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, I think it's there is a pun in there somewhere that's lost in translation.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
But that being said, back to the original question, let's go into Generation 2 Pokemon that could be dragons but are better for not.
Okay, so you mentioned Meganium. Was that an answer, or did you just use
it was just a point of like, no, not all dinosaurs should be dragons, because let's face it, Meganium should be part fairy type.
Yeah, agreed. It's like Meganium's too cute to be a dragon. I can't see that. It doesn't work.
But that being said, if Feraligatr was a dragon type, I wouldn't bat an eyelid.
Yeah, Feraligatr is a strange one where I think multiple typings can work for it. And actually, yeah, I could see an argument for it being part dragon. I could also see an argument for it not being part dragon.
Water Dark would be the other one I'd immediately think of.
Yeah.
So Agreed. If it starts off as this really happy chappy and then just gets darker as it evolves, that I could see working. I just think the big spines down its back, it's got a bit of a Godzilla vibe going on about it. Godzilla is again that embodiment of dragon.
Yeah, I can see that as well.
But
is there anyone else?
It comes down to that same answer I had earlier about why Charizard should never be a dragon, why Sceptile should never be a dragon. You can't have a starter as a dragon Pokemon. You just can't.
No.
Maybe you could these days. Now that we have the fairy type so readily available.
I think now there is a way you could balance that. So taking the dragon is like any typing. Yes, it's great for certain gyms, certain rival battles, certain members of the Elite Four, but one of your rivals will have a Pokemon with fairy type moves. It's just one of those things. I can imagine it being done in the same way that Generation 6 starters were done, where every starter is definitively better than one of the other starters in that, rock, paper, scissors style thing. It could be done with a dragon starter. And you know what? Maybe it is the case that, maybe for that Pokemon, even though it's a dragon typing or part dragon typing, if it doesn't get it till the last evolution, maybe then they can do something with the XP curve. So actually, it isn't in that slow experience bracket.
Mm-hmm.
They could make it work, and it would be quite nice to see some new unique typings as well.
Speaking of unique typings, go on, because there's a nice segue there. We got the steel typing introduced in Gen 2. We got steel and dark. And one of the other Pokemon I think they could have happily turned around and gone, this is a dragon, and I wouldn't have batted an eyelid, is Steelix.
Agreed. Yeah.
If they turned around and said, this is a steel dragon, I'd have gone, yep. If they turned around and gone, this is a steel dragon that evolves from Onyx, I'd have gone, excuse me, what?
Yeah, it doesn't work when you factor in the evolution, does it?
Because it goes from rock ground to steel dragon.
Yeah.
And it's such a buff.
Yeah. There's no way you can make that work without just ripping out that evolution and just saying they are similar in some ways, but they're not an evolution. Now that I think about it, actually, Onyx evolving into Steelix, actually, I'm not 100% convinced now that flows as well as maybe they wanted.
Nah, I still think it makes sense.
Yeah,
it's still got the segmented snake body.
Yeah. But to go back to the original comment, that head screams ferocious dragon. It's coming into Crunchy. You can just see, and like we've seen the size of it in the anime as well. Like its mouth opening, you could see some flames coming out of that. I know it wouldn't because of its typing, but you could imagine that.
And we know because of its mega evolution that the center of its body is crystallized as well. And we know from Regidrago that dragon energy in its purest form is crystallized. So there's elements there that you could easily work with. As I say, I think you lose the through line between Onyx and Steelix if you get rid of the ground typing. Plus, you also lose your bonus to Earthquake, and we all love a bonus to Earthquake.
Oh yeah, definitely. We definitely do. Another one for Generation 2 that I've heard thrown around is Dunsparce, because Dunsparce is based off of a... I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, it's a Japanese folklore, and I know this from Metal Gear Solid 3 back in the day, and Snake Eater, and trying to catch this legendary mythical creature, which Dunsparce is based on. And we're... when we've, in the past, I've, read and heard about people talking about Dunsparce needs an evolution, which we got in Generation 9. And for the longest time, people were talking about, when it evolves, it will be Heart Dragon type, paying it off. Which I'm glad that they went there. Actually, I am one of the few people that was actually really glad that they went down the line with Dunsparce and just went, yeah, okay, let's lean in, let's give people what they want, but not in the way that they expect. But Dunsparce does, to me, feel like it could have been almost the joke dragon typing of one of those rare moments where actually not all dragon types are OP. Some of them are just a little bit silly, but they still give off that feeling.
Yeah, I see that. I think if Dunsparce came out now, or say Gen 6 would have been great for Dunsparce to come out and have the dragon typing, then I could see it. Because Dunsparce, and this is one thing I didn't like the Dunsparce when it came out, but Dunsparce is a joke. That's the point of it. Dunsparce is a joke, and the evolution of Dunsparce is doubling down on the joke, literally.
Yeah.
So I think if you did it that early on, giving it the dragon typing, you're almost like undoing your own hard work. The fact that it's normal, it's so hard to find, and it's just this normal thing.
Yeah.
I don't think if you gave it a good typing, it would land. I don't think it lands very well, but I think the dragon typing would remove it.
Yeah. Yeah. Any others from Generation 2?
So I talked about Godzilla earlier. I know people bring up Tyranitar a lot. I'm kind of glad that Tyranitar is not dragon type, because outside of Metagross, it's one of the only pseudo legendaries that isn't a dragon type, and we don't need any more.
Yeah. Agreed.
That alone.
Yeah. We need more pseudos that aren't dragon types. In my opinion, we need more pseudos over the next couple of generations that are, I'd say, ice and bug. They're the two when people talk about Pokemon typings that need some kind of a buff of some kind. They're the ones that get bought up because, late game competitive, they don't really add a lot. And I'd love to see something come out that turns that on its head. But yeah, Tyranitar, I could see that being a dragon. Again, scaly, powerful, built up. I'm glad it's not. There are a couple of Pokemon in Generation 2. Lugia is another one that I've seen
big one.
Yeah.
That's mostly a lore thing. It's based off the Queen of the Sea. It is a dragon. It's based on a dragon. It should be a dragon. It should be a water dragon, and they made it psychic flying.
It was so strange. I get why they had to add I get why they added flying, but it's one of those Pokemon where I actually think it suffers for being that. And like say, I think Generation 2, the water dragon Pokemon should have been Lugia.
Yeah.
I understand why they couldn't do it though, because it would then completely overpower Ho-Oh in every regard. So I get why they didn't do it.
The thing is, they've already, because the argument made at the time was, and we've read this in the so for those of you who aren't aware, Lugia was never supposed to be in the games. It was designed specifically for the movie. The writer of the movie, who was also the writer of the series at the time, came up with the idea, passed it on to Pokemon. They went, yeah, we love it. We love what's going on here. We're going to add it into the game, and it's going to be a psychic type. And he went, why is it going to be a psychic type? Because it's powerful, and powerful Pokemon are psychics. That was the decision.
Okay. Right.
I mean, nowadays, psychic Pokemon either have to have some inherent psychic powers or some tie to space, really.
Yes.
And Lugia has neither of those. I don't think he should have been dragon flying. I think that would have made it worse. I think a psychic dragon in Generation 2 would have been ridiculous.
Yeah, broken.
Granted, we had dark types to kind of counter psychic a little bit, but It should have been a water dragon. It should have been.
Yeah. What about the legendary dogs? Because they got dragon typings in Generation 9 through Raging Bolt, or the Walking Wake, and I always forget the Fire one, Walking Wake, and Raging Bolt,
Gouging
Wake,
Fire.
Gouging Fire, yes.
Yeah, they did all get dragons, didn't they?
Yeah. So again, they feel like if they had have been dragon typings, I don't think I would have batted an eyelid. They've got something about them. Entei's kind of got that rough, powerful spine looking thing going on. Suicune is just majestic, and Raikou's probably the one that is the least, I think, in my opinion, is the one that's least like a dragon or has any kind of dragon features, but I think its face can pull it off, to be honest with you. I'm glad they aren't, but I could have seen them going for that. And I could
have seen them going down the dragon route, and it being a case of people have only seen these in glimpses and in passing, the way they move, they look like dragons.
Yes.
with their tails and their flowing manes and things like that. That I could see. Yeah, I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm glad they weren't.
Yes.
Okay. I think early generations didn't really have a lot of dragons, which it's only now as I'm older I appreciate that they didn't lean in as hard as they probably could have done, or probably wanted to as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Generation 3?
We've already talked about Sceptile, so we can skip over that one. There's a lot in Gen 3, actually. Gen 3 had a very, oh my god, it's going to kill me kind of design across the board.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yes, there's definitely a lot. So who stands out for you in Generation 3 then?
Okay, so the one from me that I think probably could have been a dragon type more than anyone else is Exploud.
Oh,
and
yes.
I've not heard anybody else talk about this. Because Whisper, no. Loudred, no. Exploud,
No.
yes. I could see it
see
finally being the first normal dragon type, or it becomes the first pure dragon type. It's got this kind of reptilian feature. It's big, its mouth is open, it looks angry all the time. It's got jets coming off it where it can blow smoke and things like that.
Yeah.
I could easily see that being a dragon.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. I now that I'm looking at it, the more I'm looking at it, I think this is, the question is, some Pokemon that, that are better for not being dragon typings. I actually think this is probably one of the ones that maybe would have benefited from it, because by this point, there's a lot of normal types going on, even in its own generation. You've got the Slacking line, Exploud line, Delcatty line. You've got multiple lines in Gen 3, let alone previous generations. How could you have made that stand out? And you know what? From a gameplay perspective, it would have rewarded the people who, I've got a Wishmere, oh, it's really cute. Or, people that, like me, who just, I don't care about that. And then to find out later on, wait, what? It's a dragon type? And coming back to it, it would have helped to just make what I think is one of the strongest generations in terms of design even better. I've got another one in. Yeah, I have got another one in that generation. I've got a couple actually. Now that I'm rolling through, Torkoal, I feel like that could have been a fire dragon. I know it's a tortoise, okay, but in certain cultures, like tortoises kind of get wrapped up in that mythology.
You get that kind of turtle dragon element of it.
Yeah. Again, like that, like smoke that it's got coming out. In the games, typically that isn't see-through. Typically it's white. It's almost that flowing mustache that some dragons have. And you could have that as part of the lore of, people think it's smoke when actually the ones coming out of its mouth, its nose is actually like, whiskers, basically. So again, that it's got the color scheme for it. I could see that one actually working as a dragon typing. And again, like, would help to differentiate it, because Torkoal's always stood out as a weird one that pure fire, but never feels like it should be.
I mean, it sets up the sun.
Yeah. But other than that, what's it got going for it?
It's a big smoky boy. How is he not fire type?
No, I'm not saying he's not fire type. I'm saying he should be fire and something.
I mean, I've always assumed he should be fire rock, really.
Yeah.
My assumption is you should have Camerupt as fire ground and then Torkoal as fire rock. Because the rock hardness of its shell and things like that. That's how I think they should have done it. I can see what you're kind of getting at. I like the whiskers angle. I do like the whiskers angle. That's a new one I hadn't seen before. Other Pokemon from that generation. I mean, let's touch on Aggron, because that's one that comes up a lot.
Something about it, yeah.
It's fine, cool. It's big. It's a scaly boy. I can see why people would want it to be a dragon. I'm all right with Steel Rock.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think it plays much more into what it is than a dragon would. And that's the problem with dragon types, is because regardless what else they've got going on, they just become dragons. It's almost an overpowering type, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame.
It is, yeah, which is why I think in the early generations they didn't go so, ham on it. And we're a little bit sparse with it. I've got another one that I've heard some people say is Tropius.
Yep, Tropius I get a lot.
Because I think that you could have dropped the flying typing from it, and you could have had the first grass dragon typing. Again, really unique typing. It's got that kind of, dinosaur design that we've mentioned a couple of times. That there's certain dinosaur type Pokemon that could fit a dragon typing. It would have been really unique, and it would have given us something in terms of, not every dragon type needs to be this roaring, mythical powerhouse. Some of them, like Dragonite, are just very cute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see it working. Is it better for not having the dragon typing? No.
No.
No, I don't think it is. I'll tell you one who could have been, but it's better for not. In fact, all right, it's better for not. I think it'd be funnier if it was Kecleon.
Okay. No, that would have been hilarious.
Because how great would it be? It's like, it's a dragon type? That's amazing. I've got a dragon so early on. I'm going to throw it out and, it's not a dragon type anymore because it got attacked.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You know what? I do like that a lot, actually. That
and
would
it means
be
you resist
really unique.
most things that first time you throw it out.
Tim. Yeah.
I think that would have been funny if it's like, here's a dragon. You can basically have it as an immediate encounter. You can catch it real easy. But it's not a dragon type for long.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought of Kecleon, but actually I can see that working in a bit like that generation's Dunsparce of, you're in on the joke, right? You're enjoying this, yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that working.
In Gen 3, I've got a couple more as well. One of them is Sharpedo.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the reason it's Sharpedo is because Garchomp exists, who is Land Sharpedo.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it. That's the start and the end of that argument. If Land Sharpedo is a dragon, why is Water Sharpedo not a dragon?
You can lean into that from a kind of, there is somewhere further you can go with that, because like sharks have been around since prehistoric times. Mm-hmm. They haven't changed much in terms of evolution, and we've already mentioned the link between dragon typing and dinosaurs. So there is a link there that could work. But are you glad that it wasn't?
I like it as a dark type. I think it works better from Archie as his ace Pokemon.
Yes.
Being a water dark type, I really like it for that reason. Would it being water dragon make it worse for Archie? No, but again, I think adding the dark typing on there does give it a little bit of flavor, more so than the dragon would.
Yeah, and let's not forget, if it had been water dragon, it's not a unique typing. It's something that we've had before. Water dark at that point was there was another one in Crawdaunt that was introduced that generation. Was Crawdaunt? Yeah, so there is more than one. But we hadn't had that typing before in a game, so it was quite good to get that unique typing. Have you got a couple more then for Generation 3? Because there's a few more.
There's one more I've got on my list, and it's a bit of an out there one. Huntail. And my argument is it should be a dragon type and Gorbis should be a fairy type.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Now, obviously, I imagine it would have to be a secondary typing, right?
Oh yeah, it's water first.
Yeah, so water dragon, water fairy. I quite like that.
Yeah, obviously it wouldn't have been quite as easy back in the day because fairy types didn't exist when this came out, and therefore you'd have had one that was water dragon and then one that was just water, and wouldn't have been great for it.
No.
And as you say, we'd already had a couple of water dragon types, or we'd already had Seadra. Kingdra. I always try and say Seadra, Sea King. Nope, those are different lines.
No. I know why you do it though. I've done it before. One last one for that generation, which I'm glad that it wasn't, is Milotic. They could have gone there with that, I feel like, and I don't think very many people would have batted an eyelid. It's got that kind of, a beauty element to it. It's the same reason why, later generations, I could see why they might have made it Water Fairy.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they didn't go Water Dragon with this Pokemon.
Okay, why?
Because I think it leans in a little bit more with that Kingdra thing of, I don't need loads of, Pokemon have done it in the past where we've seen it before where, oh, this is a really good typing. Now let's make more of these Pokemon that same typing. And I know, of course, there's always going to be some degree of that because there are only so many combinations you can make despite having 18 in total. But, I don't want them just repeating the same typings over and over again. Sometimes you have to take these in the generation they were introduced, so you don't look at it as a whole. That generation we've already got water. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We've got water bug, we've got water grass, we've got water ground. Like we've already got loads of these unique combinations in generation 3. But actually, I think the only pure water types are, I think, Wailord,
the Huntail line.
Huntail line, Kyogre, which is late game, and you might not even be able to get it in the game that you're playing. Mm-hmm. And then Milotic. So actually, I think just keeping it as just a pure water type, I think benefits that generation. I don't think it makes sense later generations, but just for Gen 3, I think it works.
Yeah.
Anything else for Generation 3? And the only ones I can think of... Okay, the only ones I can think of now, though, is Kyogre and Groudon. Do you think there's... They could have been.
They could have been.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I'm glad they
definitely
didn't.
Could have been.
Yeah, they've got, again, that prehistoric kind of design to it, but also Rayquaza, which is the third one of that trio, is part dragon. They could have had Dragon Water, Dragon Ground, Dragon Flying.
But all that would have done is brought us into kind of the issues we ran into the next generation where, all the legendaries are dragon types. Why?
Yes.
Because all the legendaries are dragon types, because it's strong.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, as I say, the creation tree are probably one of the reasons why I say, dragon is one of the earliest energies around. But I don't think they needed to be dragon, really. And much in the same way, I don't think we needed Kyogre and Groudon. Because again, then dragon is all they are. They become dragons. The water and the ground is what they're supposed to be. It's land and sea. To add dragon to them almost takes away from that. And sure, you can say that about Rayquaza. Rayquaza is supposed to be the defender of the sky, but Rayquaza is also kind of supposed to be more powerful than them, which is why you give the dragon typing.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I'm glad they weren't dragon typings. Generation 4. I've just realized we're coming up to 50 minutes. We should probably plow through these.
It's okay, because realistically, I think as we get to these later generations, we start seeing them throw dragon typing in more. And therefore, the ones that could have been aren't so regular.
Yeah.
So I've only got one in Generation 4.
Go on, which one?
Rampardos. Because realistically, if Tyrantrum is, why is Rampardos not? It's a pure rock fossil type. You could have given that dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, you could have done. It's actually, you know what? It's a strange one, actually, because Rampardos the only
pure
fossil
rock
type,
fossil type, yeah.
That one, to me, should have been, I think it should have been Rock Steel.
Rock Steel. You already had Bastiodon.
Oh, no, because we've got that shield. Yeah, Bastiodon. Yeah, good point.
I could have seen it Rock Fighting.
Yes, I could have seen that as well.
Yeah.
But it's not a dragon typing. I'm glad it's not a dragon typing. But it should have been another secondary typing.
Yeah, I could have seen it being many things. If they'd made it a dragon, I'd have gone, yep, makes sense. I don't know if I'm glad it's not dragon. It's very hard for me to come up with an answer as to why I'm glad this isn't dragon. Generation 4, you'd have had to face it in the first gym. There you go. That's why I'm glad it's not dragon. Because you'd have had to face it in the first gym.
Would have been a little bit broken. And then, as you move on through Generation 4, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina are part dragon.
Mm-hmm.
This is when that power creep started settling in, and let's just give dragon to absolutely everything and its dog. I've sseen people mention before about Yanmega. I'm glad it wasn't. I think it's just an oversized bug. Yes, it looks like a bug from the prehistoric times, but it doesn't speak dragon to me. It speaks flying bug.
It's a dragonfly. What are you chatting about?
Yeah, dragonfly, yes. Drapion is another one that I could have seen. It's got that energy to it, that fearsome, look to it. I'm glad it's not, though. Poison Dark, again, I think by this point is a unique typing. And an upgrade from Skorupi, which is Poison Bug. I think it works as it is. It doesn't need to be a dragon type, but I could have seen it being a dragon type.
I always forget about Drapion. I always get Drapion and Scolipede confused in my head.
Oh, do you? Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I think realistically, if Drapion had been a dragon, it would have helped separate them out for me. I know one's Poison Dark.
Okay.
I know Scolipede is Poison Dark. Oh, no, it's not. It's Bug Poison.
No, it's Bug Poison, yeah.
Is it Drapion that's Poison Dark?
Yes.
It loses its bug typing, turns into a Poison Dark.
That's right. Yes. Right, okay. Which always confused me. It's certainly over the last couple of years where I've suddenly gone, oh, okay, right, I finally, when it finally clicks in, and you go, oh, okay, yeah, got it.
Yeah, I think the Dark type suits it a little bit more than dragon.
Definitely. Yeah. Generation 5?
Superior.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that it might have elevated that Pokemon as well. I think it suffers with because I think its design. I think people would have been more forgiving of its design if it gained the dragon typing on its final evolution.
Yes, I agree.
And even Servine has that kind of reptile dragon feel going for it with the leaves on its back.
Yeah, it almost looks like they were leaning that way and then stepped away from it and just decided, now we're just going to give everyone the base typing. Well, except from Emborg, because we've got to have another firefighting type. Actually, I've just realized that.
Yeah,
everyone in that generation is singular typing except from the firefighting Pokemon again.
That's bizarre. Yeah, that is bizarre, actually. I've never really... Because Samurott, I look at Samurott and I don't know why my head goes to, it's Water Steel.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's strange. Like, Samurott probably should have been the water fighting type. Thinking about it. It's, it's scrappy, yeah. Have you got any others for Generation 5? Because I'm scrolling through.
I haven't. Again, Scolipede, maybe, but basically for the exact same reasons we talked about Drapion. It's just big, scary bug.
Yes.
It could have been a bug dragon. Mm-hmm. I could have seen that working. It's fine. It can be a bug poison.
Yeah, this is one...
Not really.
Sorry, I was just going to say, there's a couple in this generation which are those dinosaur-style ones, but again, don't really feel like they should be dragon typings. Like Archeops, feels like they could have done it for that, but I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, I think rock flying. I think it's hard to give Archeops the dragon typing and then call it the first bird. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we're still in that point where you've got to give all the fossils the rock typing. So yeah, it has to be rock flying from where I'm standing.
Yeah. What about Electros?
Electros is one of those ones I could see. I think Electros is definitely better off without it because it stands as the only Pokemon without a weakness because of its ability.
Yeah.
And if you add the dragon typing, you take that away.
Yeah. Agreed. Again, like as we move through this generation, there's a couple of dragon typings already. Volcarona? No, more bug than dragon.
Yeah, I can see it. It's represented as like a deity. It feels like one of those where they'd have slapped the dragon on it, and everybody would have gone, "Really?
Yeah,
the moth is a dragon."
Agreed.
So I'm glad they didn't. I'm quite happy with having this non-pseudo but well-revered Pokemon as Bugfire.
Mm-hmm.
Gen 6, the only one I've got on my list is Aurorus, because dinosaur.
Yeah.
But I also kind of like the fact that we got an ice type to counteract our first dragon fossil.
Yeah, agreed. And I feel like it's one of them where Aurorus actually, a little bit of a shame that in this generation that introduced fairy types, it's not a fairy type.
I don't know. I really like what they did with the Aurora Borealis.
Yes, I like that too.
And the sails and stuff like that. I think it's a cool design. I think it lends itself to what it is.
Agreed. I feel like for me, it's one of those Pokemon that, again, suffers from no third typing. I feel like Fairy could have been thrown in there and you would have gone, okay, I understand that, because when you look at the Aurora Alice, you typically have a wide spectrum of colors and it's got that kind of design going for it. In terms of that generation, I don't think I've got anything else really for it. I see what you mean. Actually, there's a lot of like old style dinosaur style Pokemon in that, including Heliolisk. No, you know what? No, I don't think that should have been. I'm glad that's not dragon.
Okay, so you're happier with it being. You're happier being electric normal than electric dragon.
Yeah. Yes. And the reason why I think goes back to what I've said before of I like the fact that sometimes they go, okay, we could make it this typing, but we've had this typing before. This is a unique or new typing. Let's go with that.
Okay.
I think that's my reason for it. I'm still confused by being normal and just what normal actually means in the Pokemon universe. But yeah, do you think it should have been Electric Dragon then?
It would have been the first Electric Dragon.
Yeah, it would have been second because we've had one of the dragons. What's one of the legendary dragons?
Oh, no, you're right. Zekrom. Okay.
But again, it would have been the first non-legendary. And at this point, people won't have that Pokemon in their game. So I think you could have gotten away with it, despite the fact it's a repeat typing. It's not like a common typing. It's still very rare at this point. So you could have gotten away with it.
Gen 7, you got much in here?
I haven't, I think Vikavolt has that energy to it where I could see it having a dragon typing, but like you've mentioned before, you'd have to take away probably the one of the two typings that suit it best.
Yeah, do you get rid of the bug, which
wow.
Don't get rid of the bug. We like the bug.
Yeah. Bug Dragon. Could that have been our first Bug Dragon typing?
But then you lose the electric side of it.
The electric, exactly. This is the problem.
So, yeah, I think it just suits it better being as it is.
Yeah, agreed.
Similarly, Salazzle.
Yes, I was just looking at that one.
Yeah, is the other one. It's very reptilian. It's got that kind of gait to it where it could be recognized as a dragon. It's a poison fire type. Don't touch it. Leave it alone.
I think you could have dropped the fire type. That, unlike the previous one we talked about, I think you could have dropped, because fire and dragon are kind of, you think about one and I think your brain automatically goes to the other one, because in so much media, dragons breathe fire. I think you could have gotten
Western
away
media.
with going, yes, true, actually. Yes.
Plus, you're giving up on a poison fire type Pokemon. How many poison fire type Pokemon have we got?
By that point, none.
And I think it's still just Salazzle.
Oh, okay.
I think it's still just Salazzle. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Right, okay. I have to keep it then. I can't go back on what I've said previously about typings. Yeah, Poison Fire. I can see why it could have been Poison Dragon.
I mean, we got Naganadel in the same generation. Which is the evolution to Poipole. Granted, it's in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but
yeah.
I mean, technically as well, that's our first Dragon-type starter Pokemon. Poipole is supposedly a starter Pokemon in other dimensions.
Yes, so I've heard. Yes.
So there you go. Okay. We have a Dragon-type starter Pokemon.
Way confirmed. Also, the fact that you were able just to say that Pokemon's name, I've never actually had to pronounce it. You just like rolled it off the tongue. Like powered through that.
I think I say it wrong. I think it's Naganadel. Yeah, I have to say it the way I say it because I think the correct pronunciation I always say wrong.
Yeah. Any other Pokemon of that generation?
Not really. Necrozma, maybe I could see.
What about Silvally? Silvally's a strange one because
it's every type.
It doesn't look. Yeah, and it doesn't look like it is a dragon. It looks like it has features of several dragons.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is. It's supposed to be a homunculus, really. It's a combination of a bunch of different Pokemon.
It's like a chimera.
You couldn't chimera. That's the correct word.
Yeah.
You couldn't have this be a dragon typing because Arceus isn't a dragon typing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I can completely understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. This is supposed to be the thing developed to defeat God, really. So you just can't. You can't have it be a dragon type.
No.
I mean, you can. You can give it the Arceus system and make it a dragon type if you want to.
Yep. I was just going to say, I always forget Drampa exists.
Yeah, it does.
I always forget it exists, but it's there. It's there. The Ultra Beasts are another one, actually, that I think they could have gone, Ultra Beasts, they're so powerful, they're all part Dragon type. Glad they didn't. I'm glad that we got a bunch of Pokemon who had these really unique or strange typings, and they didn't go with either Psychic or Dragon because they're so overpowered. I'm so happy with that. And I know there are a couple in there that are Dragon or Psychic, but for the most part, they're not.
Yeah, I mean, Guzzlord, but sure.
Guzzlord's scream, I'd love Guzzlord.
He's one of my favorite Ultra Beasts.
It's so cool. Right, okay. Generation 8.
I got written down here Inteleon.
Go on then, explain that to me. Let me know why.
Just the reptilian nature of it. It's technically got wings because it can fly with a cape.
Yeah.
I could see it being a dragon. I don't need it to be a dragon.
Yeah. Could have seen it. Are you glad though that it's not?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
agreed.
Could you imagine if the first actual starter Pokemon, like the starter Pokemon for our world, was Inteleon? Gross.
Yeah, it's just like oh, you would not be happy being a trainer in that region, would you? Okay, Center Scorch. I know it's Fire Bug. It's got that majesty, that dragon majesty about it. It's
got the mustache.
Again, I think it got the mustache. Yeah, but I think it works better as a Fire Bug.
Yeah, I think there's an argument of what you were saying as well about sort of the dragon could replace the fire quite comfortably, but it's a radiator. It's a big old radiator, so it has to stay fire as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed. You got any others in that generation? Again, it's one of those weird ones where you get to the end of that Pokedex, and a lot of them are dragon typings. Like, oh yeah, quite a few of them.
I mean, Sandaconda, maybe you could argue.
Yeah, I did think that. Again, yes, you could argue that it could have been, but
I think you could just as comfortably argue that it could be ground normal.
Yeah.
Because it's a snake.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of them that actually I am, if it had been ground dragon. I wouldn't have been surprised. It wouldn't have made me use it anymore. Am I glad that it's not? I don't really have an opinion on it. It could have been anything, and just a Sandaconda.
Toxtricity, I could maybe see being a dragon, but electric poison is far too cool to give up.
Yeah, you'd have to. Again, it goes back to that same issue of you would have to replace one of the two typings that best suit it with something that's less than the sum of its parts. Just don't see it working. I don't think I've got anything else in Generation 8. What about the Legends Arceus? Again, looking at Legends Arceus, I don't think there's anything. Maybe Cleaver, actually? I'm unsure.
I think the rock suits it so much better. Because, again, you got to realize, like, you've got past Scizor, which is, like, Stone Age, and then you've got the future Scizor, which is Steel, and it works for what it's going for. The only other one I was thinking in Legends Arceus, maybe Basculegion, but I think the Water Ghost is far too strong.
Agreed. I think that, yes, that could have... It does have that, almost that majestic carp feature of, yes, it could have been a dragon.
It's the sort of thing you'd see in a Legend of Zelda game as one of the 5 dragons. You know what I mean? And you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But I think the idea of a bunch of Basculin killing themselves and forming into one, way cooler.
So too. Yes. Oh, definitely. Definitely. And then we're into the final generation.
Yeah, and I've only got one in here, and it's Iron Jugulus.
Yes, okay.
But
is that... Yeah, why is your reasoning behind that, I guess?
So, I mean, why do I think it should be... Why do I think it could be Dragon type? Because it's a High Dragon clone. It could have been a Dragon type.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The problem is, if you make it a Dragon type, you can't really get rid of the Dark, because that's what makes it interesting. So it becomes an electric dragon, a dark dragon. Well, it can't be dark dragon because then it's got the same typing, and these are all supposed to have very odd and very unpredictable typings. So I think for that reason, we let it slide.
Yes.
I also don't know if there's any future dragon types.
So there is, but only in Miraidon. But would you count that? Because
I would.
It's actually that's it for the futuristic paradox.
I thought they were hinting at something there for a second, like, oh, Dragon was the earliest typing and now it's died out in the future, but no, we got Miraidon, so it doesn't matter.
I still got one. Just to kind of wrap this up in terms of Pokemon that we are glad that weren't part Dragon or Dragon typings. Dondozo could have been. I'm glad they didn't go down that route.
It's fun. I like the false dragon attitude of it.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely agreed. I love that combination between the two, and I think it works really well. I don't know if there's anyone else in that, actually. It's one of those... I think it's probably the generation that actually lends itself least to dragon typings, and I'm actually really glad for that, thinking about it now.
It's a Titan? Could you see Titan being a dragon?
Oh, yes. I could see that working.
You'd struggle with it being an ice dragon, given that your pseudo is already ice dragon.
Pseudo? Which pseudo? Am I being
Baxcalibur.
Yes. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, because
I think
then you've got
Titan could do with another typing, though.
Oh, I agree. It feels like it feels strong enough that it should have something. Whether or not, you could lean into the color scheme and go Ice Fairy, but I don't like. I say that.
I don't feel
knowing that I.
Yeah, sorry. For everybody was like, why did it go silent? It's because I just knocked my head back and forth, and Ben was here waiting, going,
No.
all right, he's going to say a thing.
Yeah, I was expecting it.
I see it on the same kind of level as Grimmsnarl. It's that kind of, it's the Sealy Court Fae rather than the cute little fairy at the bottom of the garden.
Yep.
Wait, is that right? Is it the Sealy and Unsealy Court?
I don't know, but I know what you were hinting at. I know what you were getting at is like not all fairies are cute little woodland fairies. Like some fairies are actually dangerous.
Yeah, I think it's the Unsealy Court, is because you got the Summer Court and the Winter Court effectively.
Right.
And the Unsealy Court are kind of like the evil fairies, quote unquote.
So you could have leaned into that and had an ice fairy type. And where I was going with it was, you could lean into, and I hate when Pokemon do this of, oh, you could lean into the pink and make it a fairy typing. It's like, yeah, just because it's a color doesn't mean that's its typing, but it feels like it needs something. And Dragon could have been it. I'm glad they didn't.
Clefairy is always one of the ones that confuses me now. What typing is Clefairy off the top of your head?
Just pure fairy, isn't it now?
No.
I'm scrolling up. Is it normal? No, Clefairy's pure normal. Jigglypuff is normal fairy.
Yeah.
Why? Like, it's strange.
Is it? Or is it fairy type? Is Clefairy fairy type now?
Clefairy is pure fairy typing.
Yeah.
Jigglypuff is normal fairy.
And yet part of me always assumed that Clefairy was psychic type.
Oh, really? How? Because it's from space.
Because it's from space.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And it knows a bunch of like psychic moves, doesn't it?
I think it does, yeah.
Am I going mad?
No. The more we go with Pokemon, the more it doesn't make sense that
it doesn't know a bunch of psychic moves.
Oh, does it not?
No, it knows stored power, gravity, cosmic power, and healing wish. None of which are really. I mean, it gets Psybeam, it gets Psyshock, it gets.
But this points to some of the, I think, short-sightedness of Game Freak. Of they probably should have introduced more typings more often, rather than every now and again going, okay, we need a new typing to retroactively fix a problem. Because, like you've mentioned. And I don't like the fact that we talk about typings and then obviously you have to talk about fan-made Pokemon games and go, oh, it's the sound typing, it's the typing. But there are certain Pokemon that feel like they are missing a typing, such as space. There are now that many Pokemon that come from space. It feels like you need to address this. Fable, Deoxys, Minior, Rayquaza. I know there's more, but Deoxys, did I say Deoxys?
Yeah.
I think there's a few more, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
We basically, as far as I'm concerned, we basically got told this generation that that's never, ever going to happen. Because we got the Stellar typing. And Stellar would have been the space name.
Yeah.
And that's it. We're not getting it now.
No, that's it. I think we're locked in with 18 typings, and they are happy to do that. I think they've found their balance in terms of gameplay, but from a lore perspective, I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, I still think Bug needs some love. I think Bug needs a big old boost next generation.
Agreed. Yep.
Right, should we get on to what was supposed to be the main topic?
Yeah, let's do, which we probably won't have a load of time to do, but before we move on, Tony, I hope you've enjoyed this episode that has literally been for you at this point, but I'm sure other people will have enjoyed it. If you've got a comment or question, you can reach us by leaving a comment on our podcast on YouTube, by emailing goldenrodpod@gmail.com, by leaving it on our Discord channel, or by using the hashtag goldenrodpod on Twitter. If you can't remember all that, it's fine. Either comment on the YouTube channel, which is where we pick up most of the comments, or follow the links in the description.
And please do, because there's no news at the moment. So these comments are what we're making the episodes about.
Honestly, it blows my mind that we are in such a dead period for Pokemon mainline game news, like, yes, there's in fact, you know what? There isn't really that much news for the mobile games or TCG at the moment. It's all the same stuff every month of there's a new card set out. Okay, great. There's new tickets available on Pokemon Go. Okay, cool. Like, give us your comments. We want your comments.
When's the new card game supposed to be out? Pokemon, I forget what it's called now.
It's this year, isn't it?
Yeah, what's it called? TCG
I can't
Pocket?
remember.
Is that it? That's not right, is it?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, TCG Pocket.
When's it due out?
That's a horrible name. Coming in 2024.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, that's fantastic.
That's
great to know.
useful.
That's great to know. Anytime in the next 7 months. Fantastic. Well, yeah. Dead period. So send us your comments. Let's jump into Pokeverse and what we know about this fan-run Pokemon event in the Philippines that ran between May the 31st and June the 2nd. So this was a non-official Pokemon event that was thrown together. It was selling, I've got the information here, bear with me a second. It was selling tickets for 6,000, is it pesos? Is it?
Pesos, yeah.
Pesos, which was around $100 for a single day. So that's around 80 UK pounds, I think. Or a 3-day ticket cost $331. So a lot of money. The big main draws were Veronica Taylor, who was the actor who played Ash Ketchum for the first 8 seasons was there, and James Page, who was the vocalist for the first season's English theme song, would also be there as well. Now, the only reason we know anything about this is because somebody that attended to Twitter to basically break down a list of issues and a comedy of errors that just brought this event alive. So if you haven't seen some of the images, I guess it's fine. We can run through them. It was in a big venue with a lot of empty space. People complained about poor organization, communication, being underwhelmed. Issues with people supposed to be given different color wristbands if they paid for multiple days and were just all given red, which didn't help them out. Cosplay contest was announced less than a week beforehand, which offered discounts for cosplays. However, this person that was reporting did say that there were some people that weren't given the discount because the people on the doors didn't recognize who they were cosplaying as. It shouldn't matter if you've taken the effort to dress up. It's absolutely fine. So another one that I only recently found out is that apparently cosplayers were getting harassed by children who were just allowed to run off and take their items and whatnot. There was no lounge or changing area for cosplays, so they just started changing in the middle of the area. And then to wrap it up, this is the one that feels the worst, is that several children from the well-known charity Make-A-Wish Foundation were brought along to the event and then brought on stage for a photo, having to wear face masks because they are immunocompromised, or at least some of them were, according to the news article we read. And one of them apparently could not stand and had to have a chair brought on stage for them. There is a lot about this that makes me feel that I think the organizers were just in over their head. That's how this feels to me.
Yeah. So to clarify the pricing bit there, again, I'm reading from was it Pokeverse?
Yep.
That's what they're going on Twitter. Bintu Rita, I believe, is the actual account. Says basically that in the Philippines, where this event took place, most conventions are 500 pesos. This one, for a standard day pass, was 1,000 pesos. For the VIP day pass, it was 6,000 pesos, which is like $100. And then if you wanted the 3-day pass, you were paying 19,500 pesos or $330. Which, if you don't know,
Oh,
is a Comic-Con ticket, basically. Like, way more. How much does Comic-Con cost these days?
I don't know.
How much does
It
Comic-Con cost?
doesn't feel like it'd be that much though.
Ticket
Or
info.
it may be a bit more.
£22 a day for Comic-Con. On the Friday, it's £28 for the Saturday. Same on the Sunday. 3-day ticket is £65.
Wow.
The gold pass for priority entry to the shows for all days, plus much more, which is obviously the kind of thing that they're going for here, £270. So you're paying more for this than you are for the highest ticket at Comic-Con.
Mhm.
So that's the kind of expectations people had going into this. Is it should be Comic-Con style. Looking at all the advertisement and stuff that they had, the layout that they showed, we've got 3 halls booked out in this massive venue. And the reason it costs so much compared to what a normal convention costs in the Philippines is because we got to pay for the venue. We got to pay for the staff. We got to pay for the security. We got to pay for these things. So for the people to show up and see that, yes, you've got these massive halls with nothing in it.
Yeah.
Like, we've looked through these pictures, and again, I very much suggest you go find these on Twitter yourself. Go look up Bintu Rita. I apologize if I pronounced your name wrong. I'm not going to upload other pictures on here. I'm sorry, I haven't got the time. It very much looks like they had a cool idea that would have worked a lot better in a smaller venue. And if they got a smaller venue, they could have charged less for it because they'd have had to pay less for the venue. And people wouldn't have been so disappointed. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. They got in way over their heads, thought they were something they weren't. By the looks of the state of the tables and things, like they got all these tables booked out and only one of them is in use. Yeah, it very much looks like somebody who's, eyes are bigger than the belly, as it were.
Yeah, definitely. And the organizers actually responded to this Bintu Rita, who pulled together that collation of photos and issues with it. So the quote says, "We apologize for the oversight. We are investigating the matters with the production, the team." Obviously, I don't think this is, I think it's maybe translated. The organizers have been very busy with post-production, but have said, we'll reach out to you personally to make sure your concerns are addressed. It's our first event with very little time to prepare, but we do agree that a lot of things need to be improved for another season, but we appreciate your participation and we'll continue to take your feedback to do better. Next time, please DM us privately, as we did have your prize bags available on the day. It was supposed to be given to you after the performance. We have so there's something about a video, a poker singer video, which I don't know enough to talk about it, I don't think, on this. But I know that there was something about having to take a video down because of either people in there that hadn't consented to being in the video or music that wasn't allowed in the video. There was something about they didn't have the right to something, which is why they had to take this video down. I mean, the fact that they've gotten back to them rather than just, head in the sand and hope it goes away, like, credit to them. I think that quote sums up of, yeah, we thought we could sell out this venue with things, and we couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was an out-and-out scam. Now, there's an argument that it was, because 2 of the main promoters of this were an NFT company and a Chinese Zodiac Lucky Charm seller. Not the greatest sponsors, but I imagine it was someone who had big ideas and got told, "Yep, we can get you the money," and went ahead with it. The fact that I'm now looking at their main stage, which has got this big LCD screen. They've designed this whole backdrop. They got Veronica Taylor up there, who is the voice of Ash in the original 4Kids dub. There was effort here. Like, some effort was put in. Somebody had an idea. I think they got way in over their heads and bit off far more than they could chew. And again, it's it's a shame because, especially with events like this, it really is the kind of thing where you kind of need to build it and people will come. Like, you need to have the space to have a bunch of retailers and a bunch of activities and people like that come in. So if you didn't have the space, you never could get them. Unfortunately, it seems like they got the space and then still couldn't get them anyway, but then charged people as if they did get them. And that's the big no-no. At some point, at what point do you say we've gone too far on this? Like, we can't start refunding people because then that gets out and people go, well, I just won't come then if people are getting refunded.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be refunded half. If you say, oh, we'll give you half your money back because what we thought was going to be here isn't going to be here, people who just go, no, I just want all my money back then. If it's not what you promised, I'm not coming. I mean, my biggest thought when I first read this article and read through this, it was suggested that it was like the Willy Wonka situation that we had a couple of months back.
Yeah.
Where it was basically just AI generated art in order to sell something that wasn't there. Whereas that doesn't quite seem to be the case here. Like, granted, a lot of the artwork here does look like I've been on YouTube for 3 months. I'm going to go hire someone on Fiverr to do my OC. There's no shade on whoever designed these. It's just, you understand what level of quality I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, the designs are all smart enough. I like the way they've done the layout. It does seem like somebody has maybe not scaled the layout properly, so it looks like there's a lot more space taken up than there is. But, you know, we looked through this and we spoke about this before. You've got this... There's a set here about, like, the history of Pokemon, and they've got a bunch of different cases of cards and models and plushies, and then they've got like the starters, like the Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle plushie across this really nice backdrop that could have made for a great hallway.
Yeah.
And instead they filled out an entire hall with just that. And it's taken what could have been a really cool entrance into where is everything?
Yeah, and I like looking at, you know, there are some elements of this where actually I would like. There's one where there's a load of what looks like Pokemon cards and action figures and merchandise in these like glass containers. I would love to have seen them in person. There is some things here that if they were part of a big event would have been worth the money. If, like, you know, and look at the people that they got in as part of their guest panel of, you know, these people that were involved in the Pokemon anime when it first came out. There's some redeeming elements of this, and if this had been in a smaller venue for a fraction of the price, I don't think we'd be seeing a lot of the complaints. But I think they have overpromised, undersold, unfortunately. I think it would be interesting to see if they even bother doing another one after this. But I must admit, whenever, you know, you're organizing any kind of event, you do have that issue of, you know, what comes first, the horse or the cart? Do you try and get a big venue first and then try and sell it out, which, you know, can fail? Or do you start with a small venue and you know, you might be able to sell it out, but the problem you've got is, you know, some of these people that were on show here that did bring their stuff might go, oh, you're only at this venue? Not big enough for me. I'm not bothering. Not worth my time. I can understand the difficulty in it. But yeah, it's a shame, but I don't think that this is I think this is slightly different than that Willy Wonka one, in terms of this one feels more like they just couldn't deliver on what they promised, whereas the Willy Wonka one, from what I read up, felt a bit more of a, oh, let's get away with what we can get away with.
So I'm just having a look now at okay. some of the artists who luckily didn't end up attending and what they said about it. And it does look like,
Okay.
again, looks like they tried to make it bigger than it was and then weren't happy to accept that it wasn't as big as they were expecting it to be. So not only were they basically giving people a 1 meter by 1 meter table as a booth, effectively, which is it's not big enough. That's not big enough for anything. That would cost £650.
Whoa! What?
Yeah, that costs up to £650 for the weekend to host. Now, I know it's not cheap to go up to these events as a vendor, but I mean, you're talking about 400 quid maybe for a weekend. Not that price. And again, this is out in the Philippines where these kind of prices are ridiculous. It also seems as well that they were supposed to have more artists. I'll read this out verbatim. They had originally planned for 39 artists alley tables, but which went down to 15 tables, and they kept insisting they were replying to me promptly they weren't replying me. Sorry, words. They weren't replying to me promptly due to high demand. So they've basically gone, oh, we can't fill it, lower the amount of tables we're going to have, and then keep charging through the nose for them. So this is what I'm saying. At some point, they knew this wasn't what they were going to do. They weren't going to get what they were hoping for, and then kept playing it off as if it was.
Okay.
The scale of the tables were also very odd. The fact that Artist Alley was at the end and out of the way was never a good sign. No, that's not a good sign. And from the original Twitter post, we can see that anybody who's trying to sell art was a good, 10 feet away from their artwork. So
what?
all the artwork that they were selling was along the wall. And then the tables were set at the center of the room. And none of the prices were on the artwork, so you'd have to go over, look at the artwork, walk over, find whichever table is supposed to be selling for you, ask them how much it is, and then walk back over and go, is that worth it? And then come back. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And again, one of those things of, if you had a smaller venue, wouldn't have been an issue.
Yeah.
But you have gone way too big. And this is their first time as well. This is our team taking out their first ever con. Oh, stop it. Stop it. This shouldn't have happened.
No. Start small and then build up over time. But they haven't. Oh, have you seen something else? Just
okay,
so you're frowning.
So
okay.
So apparently I'm reading through W334800, so Dan at ToyCon. Just reading this part. They expected me to pay $27K. So let's have a look. That is £1,173. Let me remind you, the only price they gave me beforehand was $6K, which is £260. So that's like 5 times as much. They charged me for 3 booths. They thought I wanted 3 booths because their forum asked for desired alternatives. Oh, that's so gross. That's so gross. And again, that's somebody basically saying, a 1 meter table is not big enough for me to display my stuff. And here's the problem as well. It's you get a 2 meter by 1 meter plot, but they only offer you a 1 meter table. You're not allowed to bring another table into that. You're not allowed to. What are you supposed to do here? And then you're charging more for entry for people to. No wonder they had no vendors. No wonder they had no vendors. If they're charging through the nose for vendors to show up and they're going, no.
then
yeah, I'm not surprised this was a disaster.
It almost feels like these kind of events, you want the price of admission to be low because you will make your money elsewhere, i.e., the having vendors in there, and the vendors will make the money because they know, oh, well, if people are only paying, 10, 20 odd pound for a ticket, they're going to have more disposable income to spend on items or merchandise or whatever. If you've got people having to pay 300 odd pounds to get in, they're not going to have a low disposable income left after that when you consider getting to and from the venue, food, drinks. Like it looks like they've tried to charge everyone as much as they can and just fallen foul. And I'm now going back on what I said earlier, that they were out of their depth, which I still think is the case, but now it feels a bit more a little bit more gross in terms of, oh, we're out of our depth, so let's just get as much money as we can.
I mean, what hang on, I've lost it now. What did we say the VIP prices was again?
Oh, I think you got that off the top of my head. I've only got tickets costs $100 for a single day. 3 tickets cost $331.
Yes.
Which again doesn't make sense.
Okay, so we'll take that. Okay, so
yeah,
$300 for your 3-day ticket. The average monthly income in the Philippines is $800 a month.
So nearly 50% of your income
on this
3-day ticket. Wow. Okay.
So this is what I mean. This is not me throwing shade at anyone in the Philippines. They are on a lower salary than those in the US or the UK or anything like that. So these prices are ridiculous. And it very much seems like somebody went, no, we can just charge this. We could, if we charge as if it's big, they went the Apple route. They went, if we charge like it's big and it's going to be good, then it will be big and good. And it's like, no, that's not how it worked. It's not how it worked, because you overcharge your vendors and then they didn't come, and you overcharged your clients and then they came and they had nothing to do because there was no vendors.
Is this made you appreciate the Pokemon events that you have been?
Oh, I went to Worlds for £10.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I went to
the thing.
Worlds
and that
for
was
a tenner
official...
for 3 days.
Yeah.
At London Excel,
Crazy.
where they booked out not only, I think they booked out 2 halls that were connected for the actual tournament play. And I talked about how when I went out for Euros this year, it was actually, I think there was a lot more events going on. Granted, it was more child-orientated, but it's Pokemon. I kind of expect that. Yeah, it was really, really good time. And then you've also got the Pokemon Center, which you don't need lots of vendors there because you got the Pokemon Center.
Pokemon Center, yeah.
You didn't have any of that at this.
No.
And I'm gonna stick by my idea that this wasn't initially supposed to be a scam. I think someone went into this with the best intentions, really overshot what they were capable of, really overpriced this. That's where they really went wrong, and that's where I think people will now walk away from this going, I got scammed. And whether it was originally meant to be one or not, the end result was.
Yes, agreed. I'm completely on the same wavelength with you there, that we'll never know their intentions, but at the end point, you kind of have to go, well, it doesn't matter what your intentions were, your actions at the end felt like you were trying to, scam people.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple business. You underpromise and overdeliver, and they went the opposite way.
Yep. Which is why they will probably never get one of these again in that.
Well, by the sounds of it, they want to run one again next year, so we'll see how that goes. Nobody will go.
With that.
Nobody will go.
No one will go. No, of course not. Of course not. Because they've disappointed and let everyone down on this one. So why would you then? Yeah, they'd have to pull out a miracle to resolve that. Is that the show for this week, Connor?
I think so.
That's the show for this week, folks. If you've gotten this far, you're just a top dollar, aren't you? Before you go, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice. If you're watching on YouTube, then please leave a like and subscribe if you're not already done so, as of course it always helps the podcast out. Conor, where can we find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel at Captain Fidget or on Twitter at CapFidget. And you must tell people that you're uploading videos again.
Okay, hello, I'm Dan. You can find me as Professor Owen Gaming on YouTube, where I'm currently doing a Radical Red Soul Link with British Eagle, who I've done loads of series with, and he has been on the podcast twice now, I think.
Yeah,
maybe three times, but I think it's a couple of times. So if you don't know what Radical Red is, it is arguably probably the best fan-made Pokemon game with the most amount of quality of life features. It's built in the Fire Red engine, but it has Pokemon features, quality of life updates all the way through to Generation 9, including the latest Paradox Pokemon. But it's also got features and functions that the mainline games, the official Pokemon games, don't have, that they should have, really. So are we going to beat it? Probably not. Are we going to have fun along the way? Yeah, definitely. So you can also find me on Twitter as Professor Hoeing, and we'll be back next Friday for another week of Pokemon podcast content.
See ya!